in all of Metro Atlanta and the perimeter of Atlanta that would like to join. I know that this is an expansive effort on the RNC's part, but can you talk about what you're going to do even beyond the midterms and getting ready for the presidential election? Because I think if you're doing this strategically, which I hear, and I understand that, you know, you're giving the citizens an opportunity to meet these candidates, I feel like you'll be able to try to make an effort to swing some of those undecided votes as well.
Well, that's why, you know, we talked about it being a holistic approach. So it is the combination of having the community centers plus the ad buys plus the op-eds on top of the fact that we have these candidates. I mean, just Georgia has always been, you know, the motherland when it comes to, if you will, to politics. I mean, it's the reason why President Trump opened up his Black Economic Empowerment Plan called the Platinum Plan. He unveiled that in Atlanta, Georgia, when he wanted to announce the formation of Black Voices for Trump. He did it in Atlanta. And when you look at the number of Black candidates that you have running for huge offices in Georgia, you know, that's the Senate. It's the, you know, Senate. It was governor. It's Congress. It's so many offices there, and not just the major offices. I like to point out the fact that Jalen Johnson, young man from who ran and won his election for the Albany City Council. This is someone who had worked in Washington, D.C. for Byron Donalds, who was a Black Republican elected to Congress. But he had felt the call to serve his own self, went back to Albany and ran for that city council spot, and he won. And he's a Republican who cares about his community on the county level. And so that is an opportunity for us as we move into, to answer you specifically, how do we translate that and moving into the presidential election? Right. It's because we'll have a Jalen Johnson elected on the ground. We have so many others that are there that are elected officials on the ground in the state of Georgia right now. And then we will have the presence and the infrastructure that we've built from grassroots organizers, people who have volunteered, who want to be more engaged with the party, who have knocked on doors and done phone banking, that can continue that work going into the presidential election cycle.
Now, as I get ready to close, I just have to ask this one last question. Just share one major misconception that most Black Americans have about the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think one of the major misconceptions is that Republicans don't care about the Black community. And I think that's the furthest thing from
George Bush said. We heard something from George Bush now. Wait a minute.
What did George Bush say?
Well, you know, we're not gonna go there. No.
Okay, we can go there. I don't have a problem.
I was just teasing you, but go ahead.
Well, I worked for George W. Bush in the White House for 4 years,
and so that's why I brought that up. I thought you would catch that.
Yeah, and look, I disagree with what Kanye West said at the time, that George W. Bush doesn't like Black people, doesn't care about Black people, because I knew that to be true, false. But here's the funny thing about that whole story.
Okay.
Years later, there was a private meeting of Bush White House alumni, and someone asked, they said, what is the one thing the one regret or the one thing that just really got to you?
Right.
And he said, when Kanye West said that I don't care about Black people. And I thought about that. I said, out of all the things, the Iraq War, the TARP funding, the collapse of the economy, all of the things that it could have gotten under his skin, that could have made him so upset, the one thing that really got to him was that statement. And it's a powerful thing, because when you attack somebody about their character, and you believe it to be wrong, is what George W. Bush believed that to be wrong and not true, it does impact you. And he also knew the damage that was going to do to the work that he had done in terms of trying to make inroads with the Black community. He had been a successful 2-term governor, getting tremendous double-digit support from the Black community. He had talked about the soft bigotry of low expectation as related to the educational system, really putting forth a lot of first, Condoleezza Rice as Secretary of State, Colin Powell as Secretary of State, Rod Page, Secretary of Education, doing so many things for the community, and then to have it unravel because of some statement that Kanye West had made. So the biggest, I think, misconception is that we don't care because we're Republican. Look, my grandfather was actually from Cordele, Georgia. That's where the Dennards come from. Early County, Georgia. To be very specific. And I've been there. It is a small, more farm area. And so one of the things my grandfather told me, he said, Paris, he said, I don't like your president and I don't like your party. This was years ago. He's since passed away, but he was my hero. He said, but I love you and I love you in your party. So stay with your party and stay working and fighting in the GOP for our community.
Wow.
He was able to say that because he knew how I was raised. He was a registered Democrat, but he was a conservative man. You know, he worked for Sears Roebuck and Company and then retired after 30 years and opened up his own air conditioning refrigeration company called Dennard Service and Repair. And then he would take me, I was crawling through attics and fixing air conditioners and installing toilets and doing all the stuff that with him, because he's like, grandson, you're gonna have that work ethic, because my mom was the only daughter and I was raised by a single mom. And so he knew the values that he instilled in me, the Christian values, chairman of the Deacon Board. He knew the work ethic that he instilled in me. So he knew who I was and how I was raised, and that I would always fight for my community. That's why I had worked for an HBCU organization for 4 years. That's why I committed myself to doing these things from the Republican side. And so I think the misconception is just because you have an R next to your name, even if you're Black or white or Hispanic, doesn't matter. The R means that you don't care, and that's not true. The R just means that we are going to go about finding solutions to problems in a different way. I think that you can look at the educational system and say there's no doubt there's a problem with the educational system. And that's a fact, especially for the Black community. The question is, how are we going to go about solving it? Are you going to do it the Democrat way, or are you going to do it the Republican way? Republicans say let's support school choice. One of the reasons why Brian Kemp won the election the first time around is because Stacey Abrams was against school choice. And a lot of Black people voted for Brian Kemp on the issue of school choice and education. Same thing happened in Florida. When it comes to the issue of the economy, is it which approach are you going to take? You're going to take a more conservative approach. When it comes to public safety, you're going to take a Republican. But the issue is, I still want to have prosperity for my community, access to capital for my community. I still want to have safe and secure neighborhoods. How do you go about it?
How we go about it,
So we care, but it's the how we go about it. How do we get to that solution? And I think more and more people are listening to the Republican Party because they see a lot of the things, the policies that are not working under the Biden-Harris administration, and they're having an open mind and an open ear to listening to a different perspective. And that's a good thing. The Republican National Committee and these community centers that we're opening, our goal is not to have every Black American that comes to them register Republican. Our goal is to have them be open to listening to what the Republican Party stands for and be willing and open to voting for a Republican. Because there's a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents who are Democrats and independents who don't recognize their own party, but are going to look to the Republican Party or look to Republican candidates and say, you are somebody I can support because I'm voting for my values. I'm voting for these issues, these policies that will impact our community in a positive way. So I think the misconception is there, perpetrated by the media, but I think that we are doing the best job we can to combat that, but by talking about the issues we care about, the policies that we care about, and physically seeing so many Black Republicans, especially in Georgia, not only running for office, but be appointed to different positions and winning positions as well.
For sure. And I would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to interview you and talk more about that, because I think what this is going to do is it's going to really open up a bigger conversation about how we listen to every candidate that's running in a race and whether or not we align with those values or what they're campaigning for and for us, because we're voting for you, we're putting them in the office, and we want to make sure that our values and everything that we stand for is reflected. So thank you for your time, and it was great to have you on here today, Mr. Dennard, and good luck with everything this midterms.
Thank you so much. I think the red wave is coming, but I think the red wave is going to have a lot of Black Republicans contributing that too as well, and a lot of it's going to come from Georgia. So thank you so much.
Not a problem. Have a good day.